All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. It is promptly at 11 a.m. Eastern Time here. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. We've got a pretty broad topic, big topic to talk about today, so we're going to get started on that pretty quickly. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. We're here to talk about browse transactions in Church Windows accounting. Let's take care of the technical stuff first. If you have questions, please type those in the questions portion of the webinar to me. It's just me today, and our topic is very lengthy, so I may not be able to get to those questions until the end of our 20 minutes here. Again, we're going to work no later than 11:20 Eastern Time. I will be certainly happy to stick around and answer questions if you have some. If you have them, and again, the recording or movie of this webinar event will be on our YouTube channel by no later than 5 p.m. Eastern Time today. Again, so if you haven't visited our YouTube channel, please go to youtube.com/churchwindows for the entire list of recordings and movies of Church Windows webinars and training classes that we have out there now. Our workbook today is A202. Pages 14 to 30. If you don't have a Church Windows workbook, of course you can purchase those from our store on our website. Again, 15 pages worth of material to go through today, 16. We've got a whole lot to go through, so we're going to go ahead and get started on that now. All right, so we're going to go into accounting. Oh, just an FYI for those who are unaware, we just did release our 19.16.1 patch yesterday, so that is right up on our website now. If you have 19.16 installed, please go ahead and download or install that. Now it is available on our website. So if we go into accounting and go up to transactions and browse, the best way that this can be described, of course, is our browse transactions screen displays a list of all of the transactions entered into our financial records for Church Windows. These transactions are recorded either as transactions directly into the accounting module, or they are transactions which are transferred into accounting from either the donations module or from our payroll modules. Okay. The purpose of our browse transaction screens is to either confirm, correct, or completely reverse transactions, depending on what we need to do with those, or in some cases simply to view them. Okay. This is, in essence, the same information that can be displayed or show on our transaction journal too, if we wish. Okay. One of the first things, this is one of the most powerful screens in Church Windows accounting. Honestly, I spend a lot of time in here on my support calls during the day. The first thing that we want to talk about is the information that can be displayed. We can see a whole series of column headers that are listed across the page here, and if I wish, based on how the default is displayed, if I want to scroll further right, I see other information columns, and as I continue to page over, others. You have control out of you can control how the columns are displayed and which columns you see or display. Okay. First and foremost, if we kind of steer our focus back over to the left side here, one of the first columns, the two columns we see here are view, which is new in version 19, I think, either 18 or 19. Each transaction in Church Windows is assigned both a transaction number and a transaction type. Okay? And then we see this little bit darker blue line here. So what that basically tells us is these three information columns will always appear left of this blue line, and any of the other columns that we display will be listed on the right-hand side of this line. It just demonstrates or shows us or tells us that a transaction number and transaction type is very important information, and simply in those particular locations, that information is going to be always displayed there. Again, one of the new features in the software is our view option. So if we click on any one of our transactions here, like if I go down to my bill here, 27, click on view, that allows me to click on open up the view bill transaction that actually allows me to check and actually look at and see the transaction itself. All of the transactions or accounts that were involved with that. If we choose something more detailed, like maybe let's see here, let me scroll down and find one here. Payroll. Transaction 81, if I click View, we notice here now it brings up a much bigger list of transactions, a much bigger list of accounts. Okay, so this shows the entire transaction, this payroll transaction for this one employee that was brought over from our payroll module. Again, the view only allows us to see the entire transaction. We're not able to make changes at the view screen. Okay, that's a really nice feature though, because folks were asking us to say, hey, I want to be able to view the entire entry just by simply clicking on it without having to isolate it by transaction number or what have you. So we've now added that. The next column is transaction number. Transaction numbers to start every accounting year will start over with number 1. Okay? If you're just beginning to use Church Windows for the very first time, as soon as you post your first transaction into accounting, it will be assigned number 1 as well. Okay? So it just allows us to know which transaction we posted first in our year, and of course the highest transaction number to end the year would be our last entry, even though the transactions here are displayed in date occurred order. Every type of transaction is assigned a type. Income for INCM, expense is a bill or a payment or a transfer. So this will again tell us exactly what type of transaction was, what type of transaction it is and where it came from. PYRL tells us it brought over from payroll. DONA is telling us it's from donations, etc. Okay. This Browse Transactions window is really important and really powerful. You simply need to become comfortable with it, and we encourage you to kind of explore it, okay, in terms of how it can be changed and ordered and used to help maximize the power that comes with Church Windows accounting. Okay. Again, notice if I click on any one of these column headers here, it does resort it according to the column header that I click on. We're going to go up and talk about our Change Year, Filter, and Sort button up here in the upper left. I'm talking about right up here, Change Year, Filter, and Sort. Okay, let me draw my arrow. There it is. And then we are going to go up there and click on that. So once it opens up our window called Transaction Browser Options, there are numerous tabs that appear across the top of our transaction browser options. Filter, custom account groups, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about each of these, time warranting. Okay. The first, it opens and defaults to our filter tab. This is, again, I spend a lot of time in here on my support calls during the day. You can look at view transactions from a previous accounting year without ever actually physically changing our year by simply clicking under financial year and choosing the year that we're wanting to view the transactions for. Again, I can only view them here if I change the year here. I cannot edit those transactions. A few things about this. Under our financial year, we notice it shows us our start and end date for our prior accounting years or any of them. It tells us if the year was actually closed using the hard close feature, and of course that the beginning balances were finalized. That's generally dealt with systematically. So if I want to go back to say something like 2010, I simply click the down arrow, click OK, and it takes me back, and I'm now looking at my transactions for the prior accounting year. Important to notice here at the very top, it says viewing data outside of active accounting year reversals and corrections. Okay, what that's telling us is we're looking at the transactions in the prior year, we're viewing them only, and therefore we cannot change them. Okay? So simply to go back to the year, I would go up to Change Year, Filter, and Sort, and I would simply choose 2016 here and click OK. And I'm now back in my current year's transactions. Okay? Again, in our particular situation, I know folks may be thinking that is, well, closed. Does Church Windows not require that you close the accounting year? That's absolutely right. There's no requirement in the Church Windows accounting that any accounting year be closed. It is simply an option that we provide our users should they desire or choose to use it. Okay? If I do want to make changes to transactions in a prior accounting year, and again, here we are on October 21st of 16, I'm not likely going to do that. I would actually have to close out of my browse transactions, go up to special functions, manage years, and actually physically change my accounting year back to the year that I wanted to make changes to, okay, or corrections to. In this case, we're only wanting to look at it. So browse transactions, and this is true about any report in accounting now, is we do not have to actually physically change the year back to simply run a report for any prior year. Let's go back to filter and sort. Below accounting year, or financial year, we've got an account. So if you want to look at all of the transactions that are related to a specific account, you can simply click the down arrow and then choose the account itself and simply click OK. So let's find one here. Let's choose flower income, and we simply click OK. And there's my one donation transaction that came over from donations back in June for flowers. Okay, a lot easier for us to go in and frequently and ask for information based on things that we know about transactions that we want to see. Okay, the filter and sort, change year filter and sort simply allows us to narrow down the transactions that we're looking at based on certain criteria. We don't have to visually search through all of those transactions in order to find what we're wanting. Okay, fund. If I want to look at transactions that are related or posted involving all the accounts, income and expenses, and fund balance related to a specific fund, I can simply choose the fund and click OK, and there are all of my transactions that were posted to or from my education building fund balance. There were no income or expense transactions linked to that, but if there were, they would show. Okay, and folks, you can use any number of combinations of criteria on this filter tab or on these screens as well. Okay, if I go back to change year filter and sort, let's reset everything by clicking clear filter. If I want to be able to find, this is again part of the audit trail for Church Windows Accounting, is if I want to find if I want to audit particular information about something a particular user did. So in this case, let's take a look at the transactions that I've posted in the system today, or on any time. So if I click in there and I type in my name and I simply click OK, there are all the transactions that I've posted in the current accounting year, regardless of whether it was January 1 or yesterday or tomorrow. Okay. Do I want to find transactions or I find a specific check or reference number? Sure. Let's go in there and type in 1348 and I click OK, and there's my payment transaction with that specific check number. Okay. Very powerful information here, very powerful feature in the software. Okay. Date occurred. If I want to be able to enter a date or a range of dates to find transactions that were posted on a specific date, that I requested that they do that, I would simply enter the date range that I'm looking for. Again, I do have to enter it on both sides, whether it's a date or a range of dates. I simply then click OK, and there are all of the transactions that were posted with the date occurred of June 30th. Okay. Date posted. This is a really important one. So if we go up here to the upper right here on our filter tab, let's clear our filter. Right here, date posted, right below date occurred. Date posted is basically a date the date that you're sitting at the computer when transactions are posted. That is a date. That's a field that you have no control over. Okay, as the user, that is simply a field that is populated in Church Windows. Whenever you click post on a transaction, it's the date on the CPU or on our computer that we clicked it. So here in this case, any transactions that I posted, I could post a transaction dated January 1 of 16, but the date posted would show October 21st because that's the date on my computer. So that date posted is very powerful when we're actually trying to find transactions that were posted based on a certain date. I use it a lot. So let's say I had posted some transactions today on the computer. Let's edit that. So we're going to put in 10/21, 10/21. There we go, and click OK. And there are those list of transactions, even though the date occurred on those was a week ago on October 14th. Okay? Again, folks, you can combine this information here. Like type, so we've talked about, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Date posted. You can look for specific transaction numbers, either a number or numbers. So if we type in transaction number 93 and click OK, there's my payroll transaction number 93. Again, it tells me clearly it came over from payroll and shows all of the accounts and amounts that were involved in that transaction. Okay. I can look for transactions of a specific dollar amount as well if I wish. So if we type in 1410, click OK. There are my bills. There's the one bill and one payment for 1410 that I posted in the system this year. Sure is a lot easier, folks, at trying to find transactions this way than having to visually scroll through and search for all kinds of transactions throughout the year. As I tell folks on my support calls, I'm going to enter what I know about the transactions. I mean, if I'm unsure about a date range, maybe I'll look for something else, an amount or a transaction type or what have you. Let's say I want to find all of the bills that are unpaid in the system. If I clear all next to my transaction types, choose bill expense, and I'm going to uncheck show paid, and I simply click OK. Here's a list of all of the bills in my system that are not marked as paid, whether they have been or not been paid. They are simply the list of bills that would show up under my View Outstanding Bills list. Okay? Again, if I want to go back to filter and sort here, notice we've got 4 check marks on the left-hand side: show reconciled, show unreconciled, show paid, show unpaid. So right here, again, I can display any transaction in my accounting information or in my browse transactions based on reconciled, unreconciled, paid, or unpaid status. Okay? Also, here, show reversed. Again, Church Windows is all about the audit trail. So if we want to say we want to see a list of all of our transactions, including those that were entered and then later reversed, and I'm sorry, as I was preparing for this, I didn't check those, but I could have sworn we had some red transactions in here. Whoops, we don't. All right, well, that's easy enough to fix. So let's go in here and we will highlight our payment here and we'll reverse it. We'll leave it as the original date. Yes. Click OK. And we notice there it is. So we've got our payment for Big City Utilities on January 16th in red. And then we show there's a reversing or adjusting entry for that as well in the list as well. Where is that? There it is, down here. So there's a adjusting entry that Church Windows puts back into the system as well based on the correcting of the books. You can always find those reverse transactions. There's no way to omit those. Under our change year, filter, and sort, we have several different ways we can reset our defaults for our browse transactions. We can use the clear filter here, or we can go down to the lower left corner down here and we can choose the option called clear filter, restore default layout, or restore saved layout. So if you've got a saved layout based on you having set certain columns that you have here under change year, filter, and sort, if I go to my columns right down here and I've got the option labeled save selections as default, that will save those. Now it won't save any information in these fields, but it will save things like columns that you have entered. It'll save the order of those columns and what have you. Okay, but in terms of the information like dates, it won't save that. All right, we're running out of time here, so I'm going to need to move things along if I can. Custom account groups. If you have custom account groups set up in Church Windows, you can restrict the transactions that are displayed to the particular accounts associated with custom account groups. The custom account groups can be found on your help file or on your Accounting 201 workbook. Our group and sort tab allows us to be able to, of course, change how our columns or how our transactions are grouped and sorted together. It defaults to date occurred, but you can change that any way you wish. So let's say we want to change it to sorting it by account name, then date occurred, and I simply click OK. Notice now it's putting all of my transactions in order by the name of the account, and then a subsort by date occurred. Again, all I have to do now is go down to the bottom and click clear filter, and it resets it back to the original date occurred. The other way that we can deal with grouping and sorting here is in the upper left here in this section called drag a column header here to group by that column. Again, what that means is, and this is probably one of the most underutilized features in the software, folks. is that if I go up here and I go, okay, I want to see all of my transactions grouped by type. All I need to do is just drag up my column header called type, and notice how all of my transactions now are grouped together by their type. Then my subsort within that certainly could be, say, date occurred. So if I look at all of my bills here, I've got now internally, once I expand my bills, I can see that they're sorted by date occurred of those bills, and I can now expand those in to see each of those bills that were posted on each of those dates occurred. Again, clicking clear filter down at the bottom, or restore default layout, go back to the original layout. Okay? Finally, we're going a little long here, folks. Columns. This columns, like our report, allows us to be able to change and control which columns we want to see on our Browse Transactions window. Okay, so if you want to change these and save them, you just simply use the toggling back and forth as we do for our reports, these arrows in the middle, to add the columns to our visible columns that we want to see, removing those that we don't. Then if you like that, just simply click the Save Selections as Default, and it will remember that associated with your logon each time you log into accounting. Okay? And here we have vendors payees. So if you want to see all the transactions that are posted to particular payees, you can certainly use that as well. Alrighty, folks, that kind of is a little whirlwind tour of our Browse Transactions window. We've gone a little long here. We appreciate your patience. I'm sorry about that. It is a lengthy topic. Again, I appreciate your work and waiting through us on that. If you have any questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar for me, and I'll certainly do my best to answer those. If not, then thank you so much for attending. All right, let's see what we got over here. Can I print reverse transactions? When I use Print Transaction Journal, it shows the whole year. That's a great question, Patricia. There's no way to isolate just reverse transactions. They are included with other transactions on your transaction journal. The transaction journal really doesn't show reverse status, okay? Because technically they're already washed out, so they don't really impact your accounts anymore. You will find a balanced, whether you include your reverse transactions or not, those reverse transactions no longer affect and here's what I'm going to show down here doesn't affect this total debits and credits at the bottom. Definitely they're important for audit purposes, but debits and credits at the bottom are balanced, so those reverse transactions do not impact that total at the bottom. If you really want to look at your reverse transactions, and again, there's no way to isolate them, use your general ledger. There is a legend on there or a caret on there that will identify which transactions are reversed. Absolutely. You can just print one transaction. So yeah, if you go up to Browse, and now that might be the way to do it, would be as if you go to Browse Transactions, and let's show our reversed, and let's see if we can isolate that one reverse transaction. If it is a reversed entry and I'm including those, so it's transaction number 33, as long as I check, put in 33 through 33, show reversed, and click OK, there's that reversed entry, and I can go right up to Print Transaction Journal here in the upper right and print that if I wish. You bet. But again, you'd have to find the other opposing entry on that, which is not going to have anywhere close to the same transaction number. You'd have to really find both transaction numbers for the reversals and print them separately. It's rare that they're consecutive, unless I go in and enter it, post it, and then turn around and immediately reverse it before posting any other entries. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. Again, I apologize, we went a little long. But again, folks, use this Browse Transactions window. It's very powerful. As again, a longtime Church Windows support technician and user of the software, it's one of the most powerful screens in that accounting module. And so I strongly encourage you to learn how to use it. It's very powerful. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody since I don't see any other questions coming in. And we hope you have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you at another Church Windows webinar event. All right. Thank you all so much. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.